All right, our quadratics review. So solving by factoring. So usually you can have all three of these to factor. On this one though, if we just have the two, we're going to take out just a common term of x. Okay, so look for just a GCF. So what's common in both is an x. If I take it out, I'm left with x minus 11 equals 0. And then we split it up. So this x goes by itself, x equals 0. And this one, x minus 11 equals 0. And then we solve for x. This one's already done. That's one answer. This one I need to add 11. So x equals 11. Remember, here you can check your answers by plugging it into your graph. So if I plug it in here into y equals x squared minus 11x, oopsies, you can graph it. So there it crosses at 0, and I can't see 11, but I could go second graph to go to the table, and I can go to where x is 11, and there I get 0, so that works. Okay, number 2, we have a trinomial, so we need to multiply first times the last, so that's negative 30, and list your factors. The middle number is positive, so the right side is positive, but I'm multiplying to get a negative, so then the left side's negative. So which pair adds to give us positive 7 would be this middle pair. Now here's the step that a lot of you forget. You have to take that pair that you chose and put 5x underneath each one of them and reduce. So this one doesn't reduce at all, so I can write 5x minus 3, but this one reduces to positive 2 over 1x, so I write that as x plus 2 equals 0. Now remember, on your test you've got different ways of solving, so solving by factoring you have to show your work. So 5x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. So on this one I would add 3, 5x equals 3, and divide by 5. X equals 3/5. And on this one I would subtract 2, so x equals negative 2. And remember, there's another way you can check your answers. So if I put that equation in, 5x squared plus 7x minus 6, and you graph it. The other way that we did it, because here I've got this weird fraction 3/5, you can go second trace number 1 and put in 3/5. Press enter. And so since I got 0, then that tells me that it works. Okay, number 3, the first thing I would do is I look at this and I can take out a GCF of 3. So I'm going to take out a 3 from everything. So I'm left with 2x squared minus 7x plus 3 equals 0. Now I'm going to factor just this inside part. So 2 times 3 is positive 6. 1 and 6, 2 and 3. The middle number is negative, so the right side's negative, but I'm multiplying to get a positive. So both of these are negative as well. So I take negative 1 and I take negative 6 and I divide by 2x. So this one doesn't reduce, 2x minus 1, but this one reduces to negative 3 over x. So we write that as x minus 3, and then split it up and solve it. 2x minus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So here we'll add 1 and divide by 2, and here I'll add 3. Okay, so that's for method number 1. Okay, solving by square roots. So here we want to get rid of the square, but remember you have to isolate the square first. So this one's isolated, this one's isolated, this one's isolated as well. So here we'll square root both sides. So when I square root, I get just 1x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root 20. You need to simplify the square root of 20. So 4 and 5, 2 and 2. So x plus 3 equals plus or minus 2 square root 5. And subtract the 3 over. So x equals negative 3 plus or minus 2 square root 5. Okay, number 5, again, the x is already isolated. So x equals plus or minus 9, because the square root of 81 is 9, and I need to bring that negative out front, becomes an I. And number 6, square root. So x minus 4 equals plus or minus square root 7. I can't simplify the square root of 7, so I'll add 4 over. X equals 4 plus or minus square root 7. All right, solve by completing the square. So this is the one that's the longest process. So first thing, we want to make sure the c value is on the right-hand side, which it is. So then, I'm going to write a little space here. We take half of b, so I get 4, and then we square it, so 16. And I add 16 to both sides, so plus 16, plus 16. So we factor this left-hand side. Remember, it's a perfect square. So when you take this number, you divide by 2, you get 4. That's what goes here, x plus 4, x plus 4. And it's plus because the 8 in the middle is plus. Equals negative 6 plus 16 is 10. So then we write it together. X plus 4 squared equals 10. Square root both sides. X plus 4 equals plus or minus square root 10. And subtract the 4 over. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus square root 10. Number 8, the c value again is already on the other side for us. So m squared minus 4m, leave a little space, equals 7. Take the b value, which is negative 4, divide it by 2, or split it in half, and then square it. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. Make sure that you put this on the other side. A lot of you have already been forgetting this. So then we factor the left. So again, this is a negative 2. That's what goes here in the box. M minus 2 equals 11. So put it together. So this is just like what we did up above, square roots, solve by square roots. M minus 2 equals plus or minus square root 11. And add 2. So m equals 2 plus or minus square root 11. Okay, and then I did the last one, number 9. The only difference here is that 24 could be reduced, so I broke it down into 2 square root 6. But otherwise, it's the same as 7 and 8. Okay, solve with the quadratic formula. So you'll be given the quadratic formula here. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root all over 2 times a. So we're just plugging all of the information in. So on number 1, a equals 1. Remember, you're not going to use any letters here. B equals negative 2, and C equals 5. So we're going to plug in there. So x equals negative b. So I have to put that in parentheses because the formula says negative b, so I put negative b, and b is negative 2. Plus or minus square root b squared, put that in parentheses, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Okay, now remember here, we're going to just put the inside stuff on the square root, not the square root, just the stuff on the inside. So notice I put exactly how it was. I put the parentheses, I didn't leave any parentheses off, and I get negative 16. So now we have x equals, this becomes a positive 2 plus or minus square root negative 16 over 2. I can pull out this negative. Do not reduce this until the very end. X equals 2 plus or minus I square root 16 over 2. We know the square root of 16 is 4, so x equals 2 plus or minus 4i over 2. Now I can reduce. You have to be able to take something out of all 3 of these, so I can take a 2 out. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 2, and this becomes a 1. So my final answer, x equals 1 plus or minus 2i over 1. You don't have to put this one, but you have to put this one. Okay, number 11 and 12 didn't have to simplify anything, so once you do the part under the square root, I got 73, doesn't simplify, and I got 61, and that doesn't simplify, so then I was just done with those. Okay, solving by graphing. So I think we're now on the last method of solving quadratics, number 5. So in order to solve by graphing, you have to have 0 on one side, and we're going to go to y equals and put in our equation here. So x squared minus 2x minus 8. And then we're going to graph it. So I'm looking for where it crosses the x-axis. It looks like -2 and 4, and so I'm going to go to the table and check that. So I press second, and then I press graph. So 4, 0, that one's good, and then I want to check -2, 0, so that works. So I'm going to graph that, -2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sketch your parabola. And then we write our answers. Because I'm solving, I want to know what does x equals. So I say x equals -2 and x equals +4. And that's it. But make sure I see your graph. Do not write these as coordinate points. Okay, and then number 14. We'll go to y equals and plug it in. So x squared, squared minus 13x plus 40. And it looks like it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. So second graph to double check that. So there's 5, 0 right there, so that one works. And then there's 8, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Draw the parabola. So then we say x equals 5 and x equals 8. So nice and easy, solving by graphing. All right, number 15. So you'll be given the two forms for standard and vertex. So vertex is a times x minus h squared plus k. Standard is ax squared plus bx plus c. So this one, when it says equation form, since it has the parentheses and then squared, this is going to be vertex form. Okay, after that we're going to graph it and find all the information. So we'll put in x plus 4 squared plus 1 and press graph. So 1, 2, 3, 4, well, okay, sorry. Okay, so it opens up. And then we want to find the vertex. So remember, the vertex is the highest or lowest point on the graph. So here it's this low point here. Since it's a low point and it's like at the bottom of a valley or a smiley face, then it's going to be a minimum. So I want to go find that minimum point. So I go second trace and I press number 3 minimum. Remember, this is where it says left bound. So here I'm at 0, 17. I can't see my cursor. So I need to bring it down. So see how now 17 is arrowing down, 13, 12, 10, there it is. Okay, so I want to be left of it, so I'm going to keep on going. And every calculator is different. Yours might start right on. So I'm to the left of the vertex, press enter. Then I go a little bit to the right of it, press enter. And then it says guess, so I'm going to go right on it. So the vertex is -4, +1. And I'm going to go ahead and graph that. 1, 2, 3, 4, +1. Okay, the axis of symmetry is that imaginary line that passes right through the vertex. Okay, and so we say x equals, because it's a line, it's an equation, x equals the x value of the vertex, so -4. Then for the maximum or minimum, the value we say is at the y value. So we'll say the value's at 1. Okay, so x value goes for axis of symmetry, y value goes for minimum or maximum. Then we want to find the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. And you can see I can't see that here because it's going to keep on going up, but that's okay. We're going to go second trace, number 1, where it says value. So the y-intercept is when x equals 0, so 17. So the y-intercept here, 0, 17. And I can't even graph that on my paper. The domain for a quadratic function is always all real numbers, so you can put the big R, or you can put -infinity to +infinity. And then the range is your y value, so it's lowest y value to the highest y value. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and sketch my parabola. So the lowest y value is right here at the vertex. So it starts at +1 and it goes up to, it's keep on going, it goes up to infinity. Okay, so you can write that, or you can say y is greater than or equal to +1. Either way is fine. Okay, so let's do number 16. So this one is written in standard form. And let's go ahead and graph that. So negative x squared plus 2x plus 8. Okay, so there's our graph. It opens down. So since it's opening down, I have my vertexes here, and it's the highest point on the graph, so it's going to be a maximum. So I'm going to go second trace and find that maximum value. Oops. Okay, so again, I want to go to the left of it, which I'm already right on the left, so I'm going to press enter. I'm going to arrow to the right, press enter, and then I'm going to guess. So I'm going to go right on it. So I'm going to round that up to 1, so 1, 9. And go ahead and graph that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, again, the axis of symmetry is that imaginary line that passes through the vertex. So it's at x equals 1. And then the value is the y value, so we say at positive 9. Okay, the y-intercept, again, is where it crosses the y-axis, so I can see it right here, but again, you can just go second trace. We want the value when x equals 0, y equals 8. So the y-intercept is 0, 8. And I can graph that one. So I can graph that at 0, 8. And then I can go ahead and graph across that, because remember, it's just a mirror image. So just like that, and then let's sketch that parabola. Okay, so when you sketch it, just do your best to make sure you have the vertex. Axis of symmetry just goes right through it. And then if you can see the y-intercept, you can graph that as well. Okay, so then the domain here is all real numbers. And the range, this is the one that a lot of you mess up. So this one up here, we start at the lowest value and go up to positive infinity. So most of you get this one correct. It's this one that a lot of you mess up. So it's backward, which means the highest y value is here at 9. Okay, so I have positive 9 with a bracket, and I'm starting at, these arrows are going down to negative infinity. So this is positive infinity at the top, negative infinity at the bottom. So I put negative infinity first. Okay, the other way you can write it is y is less than or equal to 9. So either way I will take. Okay, then the last two, solve each inequality by graphing. So we're going to graph that in our calculator. So x squared plus x minus 12. So here we've got our less than sign. So remember, you can go all the way to the left, press enter, enter, that's our greater than sign, and there's our less than sign. So I remember it looks like a less than because it makes an L. So then I'm going to graph that. And again, want to find our zero. So it looks like it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. So negative 4 and 3. Let's double check that on the table. So there's positive 3, and then we'll check negative 4. There's negative 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So sketch the parabola. And then it's all shaded around the outside. So I'm going to shade all this. Okay, so I want to do the areas that are shaded. So this area here, oops, and this area here. So for this part, I say x is less than negative 4. And that's just this one. And then this one here, x is greater than positive 3. Okay, and then number 20, the first thing I would do on number 20 is just switch everything. So all this is going to go on the left and the 0 on the right. I'm not moving things, I'm just switching the order. So I have negative x squared plus 5x minus 4, switch the sign and put the 0 over here. Okay, that way I can see if my sign is greater than or less than. So then we'll graph that. Well, I'll change this to a greater than sign. So negative x squared plus 5x minus 4, graph. So there's our parabola. So again, let's see, it looks like it's at 1 and 2, 3, 4. So let's double check that. Positive 1, 0, so there's 1, and then 4, 0. So positive 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's an upside down parabola. And it's shaded all around the outside here. So this one's kind of similar. We want all of this area. So x is less than or equal to positive 1, and x is greater than or equal to positive 4. Now, I want to do one real quick because there's not one on here that's shaded on the inside. So if I change this one to, I'm going to use the same equation, but I'm going to flip the sign. So then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and it's shaded on the inside. Okay, so the way that your answer looks is because we want to go from here to here, and I want this inside part. So then I say, okay, so I start at -4. X is greater than -4, but less than positive 3. Okay, so there's what your other answer choice would look like. This one's shaded on the outside, so I have 2 separate pieces. This one's shaded on the inside, so I just have 1 piece.